Greetings, friends and fellow rebels, and welcome to the woods. I want to answer a few questions that I had uh, last week about the trauma that can create holes, damage in your astral body and your etheric body. And just to be very clear, in order to function on this level of reality, this particular density, you need a working physical body. It needs to be created here for you or brought down from one vibrational to another. If you have it intact at a higher vibration, it needs to become more dense until you manifest here, or you need to create a new one. But the same goes for each successive level: astral, ethereal, and beyond. Now, as long as you have a template, as long as you have a body at a higher density, you can bring it down to manifest at a lower density. But if something damages or destroys your manifestation, your avatar, your embodiment at a higher level, you lose it at a lower level. Because things manifest higher to lower. So, blowing holes in your physical body obviously happens as a result of accident, injury, mishap, sometimes deliberate, and you can have chronic disease and damage your body that way. Similar can happen to your astral body and your etheric body, but they're vulnerable to different things. And as I've said, having your energy where it's not flowing correctly as a result of some of the chemicals or some of the thought processes or some of the emotions that are moving through you, it can damage the astral and or the etheric. Astral tends to be more of the emotions. Etheric tends to be more of the mind. And there are certainly situations and beings on those vibratory levels that can cause problems, knowingly or unknowingly. There are predators here that can harm us. Wolves, bears, sharks. And there are predators on the higher densities that can cause problems as well. You'll find out about all of those should you attempt to attune your consciousness to those levels of reality. But our whole planet is undergoing a cleansing. So some of the things that used to and could reside on those levels, they're no longer there. Or if they're there, they're in a much reduced condition from where they used to be. So somebody was asking me about what kind of experiences can damage these levels of bodies, which if the damage is sustained and ongoing, if it can't regenerate, it'll eventually manifest in your physical. And if you blow a hole in one of those and a opportunistic leech critter of some sort attaches and starts pulling the energy while you're trying to rebuild and refurbish your body, it's the same thing as any parasite opportunistically coming into one of us on a physical level and eating away at us as we are trying to build and sustain our bodies here. No different. So the experiences that can do that, there's a few. We talked about the use of certain drugs certain times, certain people. It's different for everybody. Some people have more susceptibility to one than another. I can't recommend that you learn about this because it would require you experiencing it, and that's very dangerous. There are other ways to find out. You can learn about what your archetypical energies are and thus what you're susceptible to without having to dip into poisoning yourself, okay? But the use of medicines, whether recreationally or prescribed, that is one way that you can get into trouble because it messes with the flow. But another way is when you are trying to affect your environment. Okay, so danger's coming, whether it's car accident or whether you have a predator after you, or of human or other, or whether it's a different kind of accident, nobody's fault, it's something's happening, okay? You get that flash of fear. Startlement, fear, same thing. That's designed to lock shields down so that you have a moment to, could be just a flash of a second, to reorient your energy to deal with the problem. Hopefully, the problem, the energy you're pulling, and fear can pull a lot of energy in from source. As long as you're open to source, as long as it doesn't cut you off from that too, because that can happen. As long as you stay open to that, open to source, cut off from other things, time slows slightly. This allows you to throw energy in whatever direction, if you can discern a direction that will help you keep the problem from happening or from getting worse. I've known people who a friend or a loved one was in danger, flash of fear, they throw out the energy and situation's resolved, or it's not as bad. But what if you can't? What if the overwhelming force that's coming through to create the problem is stronger than your ability to bring energy to fix it or resolve it or stop it? Putting your energy out there to do that can result in you lose that energy. Sometimes, if you're connected and you are connected to source, throwing that energy out, you're trying to manifest reality in a certain way, and you lose. The reality of what's coming at you is stronger than anything you can do to stop it. You lose that energy. But you also might lose a piece of yourself, your soul, in the process. What was connected to that, stopping that. We sometimes see these remnants, these soul pieces coming and going, replaying that experience over and over in an attempt to rectify what people see as ghosts. At certain times they see ghosts walking, doing certain activities. It's a piece of someone attempting to shift reality into something better, where they didn't succeed. They lost that piece. They lost the energy and they lost that piece. But that cycle keeps looping. It keeps trying to resolve it because their will and their determination was so strong. But when you do that, there's a hole that's created where that little soul piece used to be. It takes time to regenerate that. It'd be ideal if you could call that piece back to you, but if you don't know that that's what's happened, you don't know how, or if you're no longer alive to do it, if you've moved on, if you're not aware that this has happened, you have no context for it, if the emergencies keep coming, say you're in a wartime situation and you threw a piece of yourself out and a piece of your energy out to save a friend or to resolve, you're trapped and you're trying to shift what's happening, and you can't, and you lose a piece, but you have to keep fighting, you have to keep going, you have to keep going. That little piece gets lost. And you have a hole. The trauma. The PTSD. You've lost a piece. There's some part of you that's still trying to resolve, processing, trying to resolve that thing that happened. PTSD. The solution to that is to recall that piece back. But you have a hole. So, leech comes in, attaches. And instead of regenerating that astral, ethereal part of your body, one of the 7 densities that make up you, is actually a little bit more than that, but we don't need to get into specifics. Something comes in. People who've had traumatic childhoods, that can happen. There are those who like to point out, to say, to believe that every child has a guardian angel, and children and animals can't be led astray. They can't lose their way. They can't lose a soul piece. It just can't happen because they're specially protected. I wish that were so. I can say that because it takes a better part of 7 years for the soul to completely migrate into the body, because the body has to be grown out to house the totality of what that soul is. Part of that child, part of the developing human is still in the source space. And that helps attune them and to some degree protect them in part. But as much as I would love to tell you, and I would love to believe that children can't be fractured, I think it's more important that we face the truth. And from what I've seen, what I've known, what I've observed, what I've heard, what I've read, and who people I trust, what they tell me, yeah, you can damage a child. And that's why we need to be very protective of our children. It's our job when there's a little one. We're vulnerable when we're young. It's our job to take care of that. So, yeah, you can be harmed, damaged, fractured, and something opportunistically can come in, attached to you. It takes a lot more oomph to remedy a parasite that's been there for a long time. But it can be done. Just have to be persistent and really want it gone. There's another way that we can be vulnerable, and it has to do with disassociation. But I think we've gone far enough today, so we'll talk about that next time. Welcome to the woods.